Bonjour et bienvenue à notre réunion de midi en ligne et en direct sur EBS. Nous sommes aujourd'hui le lundi 11 octobre. Pour commencer nos annonces d'aujourd'hui, je voudrais appeler Sonia à prendre la parole pour partager une bonne nouvelle pour les plus jeunes d'entre nous ayant envie de voyager.
Bonjour. La Commission se réjouit d'annoncer que 60 000 jeunes Européens entre 18 et 20 ans profiteront du billet de train gratuit grâce au programme Discover EU. Cette initiative offre aux jeunes Européens l'opportunité de découvrir l'Europe en train, un moyen de voyager aussi agréable que durable. L'appel à candidature ouvre demain et jusqu'au 26 octobre pour les voyages en 2022. Notez que cette annonce c'était comme annoncé par la présidente von der Leyen. 2022 sera aussi l'année européenne de la jeunesse. Les candidatures seront ouvertes exceptionnellement aux jeunes de 19 et 20 ans suite au report des voyages à cause de la pandémie. Chaque État membre se voit allouer des billets de train sur la base de sa population. Un communiqué de presse et aussi une fiche d'information avec plus de détails sont disponibles en ligne. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Sonia. I now invite Tim to come to the podium to give us some details about the EU's participation at the COP15. Tim.
Good afternoon. The 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, more commonly known as COP15, is kicking off today. Hosted by China, the first phase takes place virtually from the 11th till the 15th of October in Kunming, followed by a second phase in spring 2022. The European Commission, the EU, is represented at the conference this week by Commissioner for Environment, Oceans and Fisheries, Virginijus Sinkevicius. The first virtual session, which started today, is bringing together ministers from around the world to demonstrate their commitment to the 2050 vision of living in harmony with nature and putting biodiversity on a path to recovery by 2030. The EU will be negotiating for an ambitious global agreement for the protection and restoration of nature, as set out in the Biodiversity Strategy for 2030. Protecting biodiversity in Europe and globally is a key deliverable of the European Green Deal. More information about COP15 is available in our daily news.
Thank you very much, Tim. Enfin, je vous rappelle qu'une réunion du Conseil Agriculture et Pêche a lieu aujourd'hui et demain à Luxembourg. La Commission sera représentée par les commissaires Janusz Wojciechowski et Virginijus Sinkevicius. Les ministres discuteront aujourd'hui de la préparation des plans stratégiques dans le nouveau cadre de la politique agricole commune. Ils chercheront également un accord sur les possibilités de pêche en mer Baltique sur la base de la proposition de la Commission. Puis, il y aura une discussion à propos des possibilités de pêche des stocks de poissons partagés avec le Royaume-Uni et la Norvège. Le commissaire Wojciechowski participera à une conférence de presse ce soir autour de 20h et ce sera ensuite le tour du commissaire Sinkevicius lors d'une conférence de presse demain à 9h du matin. Et donc, comme d'habitude, merci de réserver vos questions sur ces sujets à ces conférences de presse. Voilà qui clôture nos annonces pour aujourd'hui. Et donc, nous sommes prêts à passer à vos questions. Yes, please.
Hi, sorry. My name is Elisabeth Hilgard. I'm from the Austria Press Agency. And I have two questions. As you might know, in about an hour, we'll have with Alexander Schallenberg a new chancellor in Austria. I was wondering if you have any comment on that. And my second question is about the former Chancellor Sebastian Kurz. Do you see any future for him in EU politics, keeping in mind that not only the allegations of corruption, but also the chats where he obviously blocked social reforms for his own good? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, we will congratulate the new Chancellor once the appointment has become formal, and we never make any comments on national political issues, and we will therefore not do so in this case either. I give the floor now to Patrizia.
Thank you, Eric. Good afternoon. I have a question about the assault that we had in Rome a couple of days ago. No Green Pass mob with extreme right exponents assaulted the trade union's CGL. And I would like to know whether you have a comment on this. Thank you.
Patricia, thank you very much for your question, but I'm not in a position to provide you with any comment. This is definitely not an issue which we have been following specifically. As you know, we always condemn the use of violence in any circumstance, in particular in the context of demonstrations. People should have a right to protest peacefully, and of course, the member states have responsibilities when it comes to the good, orderly right of demonstration. But we have no further comment to make on this. Angela, is it on the same issue?
Yeah, it is on the same issue. Apologies, I'm traveling, so maybe the sound is not so good and I don't have the camera. But I wanted to ask if is there a consideration or are there worries about these acts of violence connected to no Green Pass mobs? Because it's not the first time they've been happening in other parts of Europe. So I was wondering if there is a kind of, I don't know, consideration and worries about the risk that the spread of violence connected to these movements, which are very strong. People, no-vax, basically, people who don't want to get vaccinated and refuse the Green Pass ethic, let's say. So is there a kind of consideration, reasoning, worries on the part of the European Commission? Thanks.
Thank you, Angela, for your question. Look, the first thing to say is that the EU digital certificate, the proposal which was made by the European Commission and which was adopted by the co-legislator, concerned one specific use, which was traveling between EU member states. The further use in a national context of this certificate or other certificates to exercise specific rights is purely a national competence, and we have been extremely clear on this time and time again. When it comes to disinformation on vaccines and their usefulness, we have set out our position and what we are doing on this many, many times here in the press room. Now, clearly, nobody can be in favor of any form of violence when it comes to expressing opinions, either on vaccines or on the use of the certificate, and we definitely do not condone this. In fact, we would certainly completely oppose violence of any sort. But we have no specific comment to make on the size or scope of protests in member states. There are legitimate rights for citizens to express their views. This is a normal part of our democratic societies, but this should always be exercised respecting the right of other opinions and avoiding any form of violence. Right, let's move on, please, to other subjects. Yes, please.
Sorry about that. Jess Parker from BBC News. Yesterday and again tomorrow, the UK government's going to re-emphasise that it wants to see the ECJ removed from its oversight role of the Northern Ireland Protocol. I just wanted to get the Commission's reaction to this and why this is a red line issue for you.
Thanks. Dan, you want to come up? But I mean, we are covering here ground that we have covered a million times, to be honest. So our position on the role of the ECJ is extremely clear, and there is nothing new in this position. But I will let Dan set it out once again.
Hi, Jess. Thanks very much for your question. On the ECJ, no, I think Eric summarised our position very, very clearly there. More generally on your question, though, protecting peace and stability on the island of Ireland is our #1 priority. The EU has an unbreakable commitment to the people of Northern Ireland and across the island of Ireland. We have spared no effort to ensure that the peace, stability and prosperity that they have enjoyed over the last 20 plus years is preserved. And the protocol seeks to preserve that peace and stability. As you know, we are working hard to overcome some of the difficulties that people and businesses in Northern Ireland are experiencing regarding the implementation of the protocol. We need long-lasting solutions to provide predictability, stability and certainty in Northern Ireland, and we will come forward this week with concrete proposals. We will discuss them with our UK counterparts, and joint engagement for shared solutions will be essential. On the ECJ, I would just recall what Vice President Šefčovič said in a speech a few weeks ago in Queen's University, Belfast. He said that our focus should be on those issues that matter the most to the people of Northern Ireland and not on requests such as removing the role of the European Court of Justice. Doing this would effectively mean cutting Northern Ireland off from the UK's single market and related opportunities.
Thank you very much. Is it on this? Yes, please.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, Dan. Naomi O'Leary, Irish Times. Given, Eric, that you've said this is ground that we've covered 1,000,000 times, do you think that the UK wants to resolve this dispute, or rather keep it running? Thank you.
Look, Naomi, we're not going to go into speculations as to what it is that the UK wants. If you want to understand their position, you need to ask them. Our position is very clear, and it is to ensure that the protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland, is applied. We are, of course, looking for solutions to the practical issues that affect the daily lives of people. That is clear. We want to be constructive. We want to be open, but in the framework of the agreement as it has been signed, and we will continue to do so, whatever the comments that are made in the context of the discussions that are taking place. On this, Cal?
Yes, can you please remind us what role the ECJ would play if the UK were to trigger Article 16?
I think on the first leg of that question, I've addressed these issues last week in that the question is hypothetical, so I'm not going to go down that route. Article 16 sets out a very clear process. The details of that process is set out also in the annex to the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland. These are situations that are exceptional, of course, and the article is there, and it's there for everybody to read, and it's very, very clear. I'm not going to now go into details of what might happen if one or other party decides to trigger it. I would just point out that the protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland allows for EU law, or applies EU law in Northern Ireland in certain limited areas. And this allows Northern Ireland to have access to the single market for example, goods.
Thank you. Naomi.
Hi. This might seem like a simple question, but can you just explain why is it key for the ECJ to have oversight? Why is that a prerequisite for participating in the single market? Thank you.
I think on that we've said this, Naomi, a lot of times in this press room over the past 4 to 5 years. The EU, its single market, is an ecosystem of rules that has standardized rules. It has a court at the top that ensures consistency between member states. It ensures a level playing field. There are reasons behind all of that. We are one single market. It's why it's called the single market.
Joe. You have the wrong mic source. Yes. No, it's working. Yes.
Is that better? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Go ahead. Lovely. Sorry, Dan, if you went over this, but I lost connection during your first answer. So just on Simon Coveney's comments today, he suggested that the UK continues to move the goalpost or the playing field as such with its kind of demands and asks in the talks over Northern Ireland. So do you believe that Britain is continually tabling separate demands and different demands in order to secure more concessions than the Commission is already due to make? And I think Meryl Sefcovic described them as far-reaching proposals that you were due to publish on Wednesday. Thank you.
Joe, thanks. We're not going to get into the debate of what one side is trying to achieve. Our role here is to make sure that we can implement the protocol in the most effective manner possible in the framework which has been agreed after long negotiations with the United Kingdom, and that is what we will focus on. Any other questions on this? No, so let me open the floor to other issues. Yes, please. Thank you, Dan. So you need to wait until it's ready. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Maria Roni from Athens News Agency and Open TV. I have a question on Turkey, who announced a new exploration in the Eastern Mediterranean until December 16th. The seismic ship Oversight is already conducting research on the north of Cyprus. I would like to have your reaction on that. Thank you.
Peter.
Hi, thank you for the question. Well, you know that the leaders of the EU during their meeting in June at the European Council said very clearly what are the expectations of the EU when it comes to Turkey's actions, and that they stressed that we are interested in constructive engagement with Turkey. Back then, they welcomed the escalation, which was happening at the time, and they said that it is very important to maintain the escalation and to make it sustainable. So this is what the EU expects, that Turkey's behavior and actions towards the EU and its member states will remain constructive, not unilateral, and based on good neighborly relations and based on the respect for international law. So you know that the European Union and its member states are watching this issue very clearly and very closely and are making their assessment, and if needed, they will again discuss the issue of the overall state of relations between EU and Turkey.
Follow up?
And how do you evaluate Turkey's behavior the last days?
Well, it's up to the EU leaders and the leaders of the EU member states to make a definitive assessment when the time comes. Whatever we are witnessing since June until now, every day, is feeding into the ongoing assessment. And you know that the member states, they discuss these issues regularly at different levels, be it in the working groups of the Council or at the FAC, the Foreign Affairs Councils among the foreign ministers, and then at the highest level among themselves as the leaders of the EU.
George, is your question on this?
Short follow-up. Are we expecting a specific discussion in practical terms in which next meeting of the FAC or the ministers can we expect this to be raised, perhaps by at least by the Commission? Thank you.
Well, the agenda of the FAC is usually set shortly before the FAC starts. The next one will be on the 18th of October, so basically in 1 week time from now in Luxembourg. So towards the end of the week, we will have more clarity about what was finally decided when it comes to the agenda. But again, these issues of relations between the EU and the third partners and the third countries are discussed on an ongoing basis at various levels, starting with the working groups within the Council and continuing at other levels, such as discussions among the foreign ministers. So it doesn't have to be framed in a very specific way, because the exchange of information, discussion among the member states and EU institutions are ongoing every day. So whatever input there is from one side or another is being provided into these discussions so that the leaders in the end can make the necessary decisions if needed.
Thank you. I see no other questions on this. Are there other foreign relations questions for Peter today? That is not the case. Thank you. So we move on. Cecilia. Cecilia, you do not seem to have a mic. Yes? Okay, you seem to be having an issue with your mic. I see that you have sent your question in writing as well, and you're asking us whether we are concerned that the building of a new government could take a long time following the elections in the Czech Republic, since the Czech Republic hosts the EU presidency in the second half of next year. Second half of next year is quite a long time away, but in any case, look, the election has just taken place. We have no specific comment to make on the time that it will take to build a new government in the country. Oliver.
Hi. On a neighboring country of Czechia, Poland, you've had a long weekend now to look into the ruling of the Constitutional Tribunal on the role of EU law and the European Courts of Justice's relationship towards the Polish Constitution. Can we expect an assessment? And just in very abstract terms, which steps would be necessary to activate the rule of law mechanism? And related to this, it's been, I think, 3 weeks now that Poland has been ignoring the court's order to stop the lignite exploitation in Turów, which means they would actually have to pay €500,000 in fines for each day they ignore it. Can you tell us what's happening with that money, where it is? Is it on an escrow account? Do you keep some sort of line in your in the Commission's bookkeeping to make sure you keep tabs on this? Or what's happening with that money? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love the way you say you've had a long weekend to assess the ruling. Thanks for preserving, for thinking about our weekends. No, the assessment is not yet available, and therefore I have nothing to add on this. On what exactly is required to trigger Article 7, there's not much I can say here from the podium. I mean, theoretically, as you say, in terms of procedures, but we'll be happy to come back to you on this. But let me remind you that there is an ongoing Article 7 procedure in the case of Poland. So it's not about a new Article 7 procedure. It would be about amending an Article 7 procedure, definitely not a new one. But I cannot give you off the top of my head an exact definition of what the process is in order to do so. On the Turów payment, I'm not sure. Can you say something, Balázs, at this stage?
I can sort of repeat the procedure in this regard. So we had a Court of Justice decision imposing a penalty on Poland. So in practice, the way the Commission recovers this sum is through so-called calls for payment, which are issued periodically. So what is happening now is that the Commission will have to issue a payment request, which calls on Poland to pay the first or the penalty that's due. But I don't have any information on when this will be done. What happens in the meantime is that we continue to monitor the respect of the order of the Court of Justice from the 21st of May.
Oliver, I see that you say in the chat not Article 7, but it is what you said, as I believe. You say your question relates to the rule of law mechanism, which is something on which Balázs can provide an answer.
So fundamentally, the idea behind the rule of law mechanism is that we activate the mechanism when we see a link between a breach of the rule of law and the budget or the financial interests of the EU. But more specifically, the conditions that have to be met for us to activate the mechanism are set out in Article 4 of the regulation.
Oliver, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, thanks for that. I don't have Article 4 of that regulation in mind. What does it mean in clear terms that are comprehensible for my readers? And back to the tour of judgment, the order to pay that the Commission has to issue, what does it depend upon? What makes you wait? Because as far as I know, the facility is still being operative, so it's still going on. Thank you.
So on the first question, well, I think I cannot put it in more simple terms than by saying that the mechanism is going to be applied or activated when the EU budget or the financial interests of the Union are under threat in a certain member state. So this can mean a lot of different things. I'm not going to be able to go into further details. I think you will have more details on this when the actual activation happens, and as you know, we are close to that, as the President said during her speech, her Sotero speech.
Wait, we have not tied this to any specific country. Let's be clear. Yes. All right. So we're talking now very theoretically on the basis of how the mechanism is supposed to be applied.
Indeed, I'm talking in general terms. And on the second point, I don't think I can add much more. So just that procedurally, the next step is that the Commission would issue a call for payment in due time. And in the meantime, we monitor the respect of the order of the Court of Justice from the 21st of May.
So watch this space, basically. Lawrence.
Hello, good morning, Eric. I just want to know, is there any further clarity on the SWIFT timetable? Is there any chance of any decisions on Poland from the Commission happening, for example, this week? Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. Look, I'm not going to be answering that question every day. You will have our assessment when we are willing to give it. I understand that you would be interested in a timetable. It's fully legitimate, but I'm not in the position to give you one. As I have said, it means that we are carrying out this analysis with due diligence, and we will aim to finish it as soon as the conditions are appropriate. Quentin.
Hi, hello. Thank you, Eric. It's just a follow-up on this because, I've read the regulation on the rule of law mechanism, and the compliance with the ECJ is a clear criteria. So why does it take you so long to assess the own regulation you are implementing on activating this mechanism for a country which decided to not respect EU law anymore?
Look, Quentin, I think we have discussed this time and time again, setting out the different steps. And believe us, we will come forward at the appropriate point in time if and when the Commission decides that the time has come to send a letter to specific member states. Until then, I'm sorry to say that we will not engage in speculations as to the way ahead or the time that it will take us to do so. I'm very sorry, but that's just how it's going to be on this. These are, as you can imagine, extremely important and sensitive issues at the same time. The Commission will make sure that if and when it proceeds, it does so on the soundest of legal bases, and that is what we are doing at the moment. The President did say in her speech that we would do so soon, but we will announce any next steps when we are there, not before. Quentin, follow up.
Yes, thank you, Eric, for the follow-up. It's just like maybe a question on the choreography here. Like since the ruling, did the Commission and Poland met or discuss at the technical or political level the Polish recovery plan? Can you confirm there was a meeting or not on this one? And also, like, did the president also decided to speak with the Polish prime minister and so on? Because I saw no announcement on it. And if they spoke to each other, is it possible to have a readout? Thanks.
Thank you. Look, there are constant contacts between the Commission and Poland on the national recovery plan. As to the contact of the President with heads of state and government, when we have something to announce, we do so. As you know, we haven't announced anything in this case. Right, I see no further questions on this for us today. Are there other issues for us? Yes, please.
Merci encore. J'ai une question pour Adalbert. Je vois que la commissaire des Affaires intérieures, Ylva Johansson, va visiter Ankara aujourd'hui, si je ne me trompe pas. Je voudrais savoir de quoi il s'agit exactement cette visite et quels sont les points principaux que la commissaire va adresser aux autorités turques. Merci.
Adalbert.
Merci beaucoup. Je ne peux que me borner à répéter ce que nous avons publié dans le Daily News aujourd'hui sur la visite de la commissaire en Turquie. Donc la commissaire est effectivement en chemin pour la Turquie aujourd'hui. Elle coprésidera le premier dialogue de haut niveau entre l'Union européenne et la Turquie sur la migration et la sécurité avec le ministre de l'Intérieur turc Süleyman Soylu. C'est un dialogue qui suit les conclusions du Conseil européen du 24-25 juin, où les chefs d'État et de gouvernement ont exprimé le fait que l'Union européenne est prête à s'engager dans un dialogue avec la Turquie, et donc où ils ont discuté la tenue d'un tel dialogue à haut niveau. La commissaire discutera avec les autorités turques de la déclaration UE-Turquie, de la situation en Afghanistan, ainsi que d'autres questions de migration et de sécurité qui affectent à la fois l'Union européenne et la Turquie.
Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Adalbert? Non, merci Adalbert. D'autres sujets? Ah, attends, Maria.
Hello, actually a follow-up on Maria's question. Adalbert, do we know with whom, except Minister Soylu, will meet Ylva Johansson, and how many days is her trip to Ankara? Thank you.
The trip is planned for 2 days, so for today and tomorrow. And I'm afraid I'm not really able to confirm the composition of the Turkish side of the delegation. I'm afraid you will have to check that with the Turkish side.
Thank you. Mathieu, une question pour Adalbert?
Non, désolé, je voulais revenir sur l'arrêt polonais. J'avais la même question que Quentin, mais une autre m'est venue depuis. Mais c'est pour ça que j'ai redemandé la parole.
Ok, vas-y. En sachant que nous n'avons pas grand-chose à rajouter pour le moment à ce que nous avons.
Est-ce que le sujet sera inscrit à l'ordre du jour de la réunion du collège mercredi? Est-ce que vous pensez que le sujet est suffisamment important pour que le sommet européen, la semaine prochaine, en débatte? Il avait été question lors notamment de l'adoption de la loi en Hongrie sur les personnes LGBTI. Donc ça a fait l'objet de discussions au sommet. Est-ce que la Commission, la présidente von der Leyen pense qu'il faut en débattre la semaine prochaine au sommet européen? Merci.
Alors, sur ta première question, l'ordre du jour du collège, comme tu le sais, est fixé par les chefs de cabinet qui se réunissent en réunion hebdomadaire et celle-ci a lieu cet après-midi. Nous communiquerons l'ordre du jour de la réunion du collège donc demain. En ce qui concerne l'ordre du jour du Conseil européen, ce n'est pas à la présidente de la Commission européenne de s'exprimer sur ce sujet. Il faut que tu t'adresses évidemment à la présidence du Conseil européen sur ce point. Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour nous aujourd'hui? Je n'en vois pas, donc merci beaucoup. Pour rappel, la présidente sera demain au sommet Union européenne-Ukraine et c'est Dana qui animera le briefing de midi. Merci beaucoup.